Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Marketing Podcast with myself, Dee, the infamous Vish, and the very, very suave and sophisticated Sarah Cox.
So I got infamous. Isn't that supposed to be a bad thing?
No, infamous, as in famous, like celebrity. You are the celebrity.
Yes. Okay, I'll take that.
Know you.
Good recovery.
Two roses.
Good recovery.
The rose between two thorns even. So listen, if you are listening in and have been listening in, I hope you've been enjoying our episodes because there's a lot more to come. And in this day and age, if you're an entrepreneur, an expert, a speaker, trainer, coach, somebody who is running a business, we're going to bring you the latest in what you should be doing and thinking about when it comes to your marketing efforts, whether that's organic, whether that's paid, whether that's online, whether it's video, whether it's static, whatever. We bring you everything.
Whether it's AI or non-AI.
Yes, whether it's AI, non-AI, we're going to bring you the latest trends. That's the reason. So if you're listening to this for the first time, make sure you give us a follow and a subscribe. Head over to YouTube and give us a little subscribe there. And also share this platform, share this podcast with other people that you know would definitely benefit from it.
Yeah.
Now, today's episode is going to be...
Drum roll. Are we going to drum roll it?
Fabulous.
It's going to be absolutely fabulous.
I could maybe test out some music. Should have done that before. So, it's something that actually Sarah Cox is very much an expert in. And even though I do see myself as an expert in marketing, I can tell you now that I'm going to be sitting back asking lots of questions and learning from Sarah herself. So today is really the power of email marketing, because I think it is something that people forget about because of all the noise around, oh yeah, I get 100 emails a day, I don't look at any emails and blah, 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 blah. But actually, email marketing is very powerful, isn't it, Sarah?
It is. Email marketing is not yet dead, despite what some people say. So you often hear the phrase email marketing is dead, but I can assure you it definitely is not. And one way to tell, I always think, is if you look in your inbox and see how many, so say you're subscribed to people like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and some of the big names out there, how many emails do you get from them? If it was dead, they wouldn't be emailing you. And we get loads, probably 2 or 3 a day. So it's still a sign that email marketing is here. And it's still here to stay. So email marketing, there are still many experts who make most of their money through email marketing. So it is far from dead and gone. So I highly recommend using email marketing. There's a saying about when's the best time to plant a tree? The best time is 20 years ago. Second best time is now. Yeah. And I've used that phrase a few times when I talk about email marketing, because if you haven't started building your email list, now is a good time to start doing that. And there's a couple of reasons for it, I think. But
I was going to say, let's just take it back to that, because I think people listening to this podcast might be thinking, well, yeah, email marketing is great, but I don't have a list. So what are some of your, the question to both of you really, I've built a list over time. I never used to really focus on it, but now I have a lot more of a focus on it. And I have a focus on how I, manage that list and how many times I email them, and how I nurture that list. But I never used to. So I used to kind of collect email addresses, put them in a CRM, and then never message them at all. So no doubt a lot of those kind of went dead. But let's just start at the beginning for those people who maybe don't have a list. What are some of the, what would you guys say are some of the best ways to build a list?
For me, without a doubt, it is having a funnel which gives somebody a lead magnet, which we talked about on other episodes. So it's literally offering something in exchange for somebody's email address. So you're giving them something of value, and in exchange, you're getting their email address. That is the number one absolute best way to start gathering email addresses. So particularly if you're giving something valuable that they want, you're going to get their email address. And also it means that you're getting qualified people onto your email list, because you're only going to get the ones who are interested in what you're offering.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to start.
That's what people often forget, is that if they have clicked on your lead magnet to download it, then that means that at some level they are interested in what you have.
Yeah.
So it's important how that lead magnet is constructed, isn't it? Like, it's really got to show your expertise and give them something of value that shows them that this is something that where they're either stuck in their business or it's something that they want to know more about. Because not, somebody isn't just going to download a lead magnet and give you their email address and telephone number unless they are genuinely interested.
Absolutely. And one of the fascinating facts is that most of the people who download your lead magnet are never even going to look at your lead magnet. So you can spend weeks and months trying to perfect an amazing lead magnet. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about getting it done. It's obviously got to be professional and look good and be good content, but it's not something that needs to take you a hell of a long time because most of the people won't look at it. And one of the things I say to my clients is that's how we also use our emails. So for the people who do request your lead magnet, but they don't look at it, if we've got some of that content going out in the emails, you're hopefully going to get some people to see the content, even if they haven't downloaded your lead magnet.
Yeah.
You can use the emails to share the content with people who haven't even read or watched your lead magnet.
Yeah, 100%. What's your best performing lead magnet?
The ones I still find work well. There's a few different ones, but the ones that's just the easiest and quickest to do are like a PDF download. And I'm not talking like a 20, 30 page book. I'm talking about like a 1-2 page thing, like a checklist or a 1 to 2 page top tips. Yeah, you don't need a 20, 30 page ebook thing because no one's going to read it, right? Like we've all got the attention span of a gnat these days. So you want it to be something that people can consume within 5 minutes, really.
Yeah, something that delivers a payload really, really quickly. Like Sarah said, 90% of people don't even open the emails coming into them with regards to lead magnet because people are using funnels really, really effectively. So as soon as people opt in for a lead magnet, you then want to obviously take them onto the next part of the journey, which we're not going to talk about in today's episode because that's obviously, it's part of the funnel and the whole structure you build up around lead magnets. But yeah, the only real way to grow your database is by giving them something of value or something they perceive to be of value. And that's usually done through obviously addressing what their burning need is. Like what problems do they have that they need resolved? Talking to them in their language, getting them to identify as a person that needs that solution, then going, right, I've got the solution for you. And it's then up to them to use the solution, and lead magnets are good because you're going to put some good quality content in there where they get a result. So if they do read it and they implement something that you've spoken about, you want them to get a result. You don't want it to be, disingenuous and go, yes, here's 6 tips on how to do this and go, tip number 1 is opening the lead magnet. No, it doesn't work like that, right? Yeah. Because they'll just be like, oh my God, what a crock of shit. And they'll just never, ever, they'll never listen to you again. They'll unsubscribe. And one of the things that I wanted to talk, to touch on was, everybody talks about conversion rate optimization, but nobody actually talks about EMO, which is email marketing optimization. It's a very, I wouldn't even say taboo subject. It's not as talked about as it should be. There's people out there that look at your email databases and they optimize them for you. They take out the unsubscribes. They have those unsubscribe automations put in for you, whereby they get to re-engage with your audience and take out the ones that aren't doing it. We've done this for ourselves and for other clients as well, right? Where Sarah, where we look at their databases and then go, yeah, cool. Let's put this in place where you might lose a couple of thousand people, a couple of hundred people off your database, but the resultant activity for you will mean that your trust goes up. From a trusted domain perspective, which means that you then deliver 70% of your emails get opened as opposed to 30% of your emails get opened. And those, it doesn't have to be that drastic. Usually it's like percentage points. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% difference. But the larger your list, the bigger that number in physicality will be. So there's loads, man. But starting off to answer your question after that I just digress so badly. Is you give something away for free, right? But and lead magnets aren't the only thing. Depending upon the industry, it could be anything. It could be a video series. It could be a training. We've done a 45-minute training video for some clients where they just have to enter their email, they get instant access straight away. Another model that worked quite well over the last couple of years is the freemium model, where you give them access to something for like 30 days, like a product or a service for 30 days. And then they sign up for it, and hopefully they use it in the 30 days, or they get access to a group for 30 days. And then after that, you then get them to spend money with you in a membership thing. So,
but I think also like things like, there are so many like, and I think that whole thing around perceived value is important, because I remember hearing from my mentors and him saying that the way that you've got to get them thinking, excuse me, is that if they managed to get this for free, can you imagine what they would get if they paid you? And that's the thing they've got to walk away with, that, oh my gosh, this is so. I think it is important to ensure that whatever the lead magnet is, they feel like they've had some value, rather than, like you said, Sarah, earlier on, or Vish, one of you said that it can't just be a checklist with 6 points and the points be nothing at all.
Yes.
No value, no real, essence of, right, I can actually see how this will help me. And I think that's really important. So one thing, so webinars for me has been a really good lead magnet. My best performing, just like you said, actually, Sarah, to collect email addresses, because obviously that's where we're focusing on, has been my LinkedIn profile checklist.
Yeah.
So that's been my best performing one. And even just by having it, I don't have it anymore. I have this podcast on our LinkedIn, but I've had it as my LinkedIn link for quite a while. And people just go in there and they just download it. It's now in my featured section. But ultimately, that's been the best one. However, webinars has been a really good one, because they and then obviously in return for that email address, they're going to get to spend an hour with me, an hour of valuable time, knowledge, know-how. They're going to walk away with something. They're probably going to walk away with another download again, or another freebie, because that's what I do on my webinars. So all of those things collectively, whether it's a video series, whether it's I've got a social media calendar, which, a planner, which for years I really nicely done, very simple, editable PDF, so they don't even have to print it out, saving the environment and all that. And like all of those things collectively is what helps build that email list. So I think it's important that when you're thinking of how to build your email list and that lead magnet, just like Vish said, finding something that's of value, understanding what their desires, pain points, what is it that they want to know. And you don't have to give the whole topic away. It can be a proportion.
Yeah.
Like, to be successful on LinkedIn, it isn't just the profile that's important, but that is a foundation. If you've got that wrong, nothing else really works very well. So for me, I was able to give a lead magnet away just on that bit, because that's where people can start, and then to take that next step. So I think you're right. People need to just think really simply about what is it that they help their clients with, and how can we create something short, sharp, easy to consume, and something that doesn't take them a long time to act upon or implement, and that is of high value, so that people give their email addresses. Because Sarah, people still are, wary of giving their email addresses, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And in fact, I have a couple of questions on that for you. One is, are people still wary of giving email addresses, and do people put the wrong email addresses at times? And second of all, is a better email exchange or lead magnet exchange, so when people opt in so that you can build your email list, is it better that you put in a section for a telephone number? Because that's what I do now. All of my lead magnets have a telephone number.
That's a really good question. I mean, I think, on the whole, people give their true email address. Of course, you get the odd one that is rubbish, but it just means that person's not going to receive the thing that they requested. So there's no point in them opting in, really, because if they're going to give you a rubbish email address, they're not going to receive what they wanted. So, it's pointless doing that. What can sometimes happen is people mistype their email address. So instead of saying .co.uk, it might say .co.u, and they miss off the K.
Yeah.
So things like that, you can do a bit of a sanity check and just make sure that if people's emails are bouncing, you can just check if it is a typo or just a duff email address. But I think in terms of the phone number, it's a really interesting point because there's two schools of thought on this. And the main thing to think about is how are you going to use it? So there's no point in collecting a phone number if you're not going to use it. What can happen is the more information you ask for, the less likely people are to give you the information. So there's a couple of things on that. One, if you don't ask for the phone number, you'll probably get more leads. If you do ask for the phone number, you'll get less leads, but the quality will potentially be higher. Yeah. Another thing you can do is make the phone number optional so that they don't have to put it in. That can work really well. But as I say, there's only really a point in gathering the phone number if you're going to use it. So you're either going to phone people or you're going to send them text messages, in which case you also want some text message automation going around it. Because if you start getting loads of people opting in, trying to text everybody manually is really, really hard. But there's just no point in collecting it if you're not going to use it. I think the good place to use phone numbers is for things like webinars or when you're running an event. I don't think you need it so much for like a PDF type thing. But if you're running an event like a webinar or a challenge or something like that, I think it's really powerful to have the phone number because you can do text message marketing as well.
So going back to email marketing then. So now let's say you've built your list, you're starting to collect emails. What's the next best bit in the process? And again, you two are better at this than I am. So, what's the next part in the process? Because, when people download, there's obviously a nurture sequence for that particular download.
Yeah.
But then there is the question, which I know a lot of listeners will be wanting to know about, is how often should you email your list?
That's a really tricky question to answer. And I think that we've had this conversation before as well, right? Offline, like not on a podcast recording. It does take a bit of trial and error to get to that point where you know how much they should be emailed, essentially. But certainly when you first start off with them and they come onto your database, you need to get a welcome email out to them after you've given them the payload, which is a lead magnet, right? Yeah. You need to put them into some sort of a sequence, whether it's a nurturing sequence or an engagement sequence. You need to go into there, and I would start doing it maybe the frequency of about 2 to maybe 3 a week, all right? Because when they sign up, you want them to get to the next point in time as quick as possible, which is usually jumping in a webinar or booking in a call or, whatever it is. You want them to go next stage. So I would say 2 to 3 times, with a day delay, and then ease off a little bit if they haven't taken the next step. Because you'll start to see a lot of unsubscribes that happen at that point in time. People get fed up. They're like, oh my God, I just signed up to Dee's email, just got a lead magnet, and she's emailed me 3 times already this week. And the fourth one will probably be the one that breaks the camel's back, as they say, right? So you want to ease them off it, but then you want to put them into what I call general population, where they get those newsletter emails, the keeping in touch emails, where they can be once, maybe twice a week. And again, you've got to judge that based on how many people unsubscribe, really. But then also, if there's stuff happening, like, this is why it's so hard to answer. If there's stuff happening in the marketplace that is applicable to them and their businesses, or applicable to your niche, and you want to talk about it for their businesses, then if you send one out the same day and there's something that hot that happens, send another one out, because you want to be kept abreast of, news and advancements and developments and stuff. So yeah, like in a roundabout way, no, not one way to answer your question, mate.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because Sarah, you're, I've forgotten his name, the guy who works up for Keep.
Darren.
So Darren Adams talks about how, it takes a certain amount, psychological thing, certain times of, you've got to be seeing certain things for a certain amount of time. So, like once a week isn't enough, because you've got to keep them in front of mind, that kind of thing. Then because with the I think, I can't remember what you called it, but the nurture sequence that happens once you don't download a particular lead magnet, I've always believed that in that nurture sequence, you're looking at an email every day.
Yes.
Maybe 5 or 7 emails. Yeah. And then thereafter, you're kind of looking, I get emails from people every single day, sometimes twice a day. Nick James, Matt Elwell, people that we know, Matt Wilson, I get people. Yeah. And I haven't unsubscribed from those ones yet.
Do you know why that is? Because you're the person that hasn't unsubscribed. However, there will be people that have received those emails and they've unsubscribed because they've.
Should we read about those?
No, you shouldn't, because people have done, like Matt Wilson, Matt Elwell, Nick have done EMO. So they've done their optimization of their lists. So they know that the people that are receiving the emails are people that either open them or they bank them and they don't unsubscribe, right? Unsubscribe, they're going to get an email anyway, but they've already kind of cooked their stats. They've stacked the deck in their favor because they know that these people are engaged people. Like, why would you send an email to an unengaged person? It makes your stats look shit. So they've already done the hard work and taken it out. So yeah, you do receive them every day, but that's because they are watching you, D. They know you read their emails.
But I don't always read them.
You don't always have to read them. You don't always have to. Yeah, you don't always have to read them. Like, there's a large percentage of emails, because I still sign up to lists as part of my tests, and I still receive emails. But every so often I get the email saying, "Hey, you still there? Is it something I said? Why won't you read my emails?" You know, especially if I haven't read an email for a while. So I think it's part of an overall strategy. And we, don't look at it in isolation. Know that they're watching you, mate. They know you're not going to be one of these people that unsubscribe, but certainly not affect their open rates that much. You don't need to read all of them. You need to read enough.
Yeah, just read enough of them. You don't unsubscribe because you don't want to miss something. So, like, we stay on people we follow. We stay on their email list because we do want to hear from them. We may not have time to read every email they send, but we don't want to miss the things that, when they're emailing us about events they're running that we want to go to. We don't want to miss those. So we have a bit of FOMO. So we stay on them so that we don't miss stuff. And when a headline catches our attention, which is why headlines are really important, or we see they're running an event, we're more likely to read those ones. So I think, you can't expect everyone's going to see every single email you send, and most people won't see every single email you send, which is also another reason for sending more rather than less.
Because that then counters the argument, doesn't it? Like, one email a week isn't enough. It doesn't matter if you piss people off. And the people who will unsubscribe anyway. I think the strategy that is best is to actually email them 3 or 4 or 5 even times a week, so that and this is having seen what some of the amazing people do who do email marketing, that it doesn't matter. Like, if you're going to if they're going to unsubscribe, I remember I used to get really upset when people unsubscribed. I used to look at why and see if they gave a reason, and now I'm just like, it's fine, because like, I've unsubscribed from lists. It's because I don't need that information right now.
Why'd you do that? Oh my God.
I want to subscribe to it again. I'll see something and I'll subscribe to it again. Like, I know with Active Campaign, there is an email optimization where every 24 hours it measures what's happening with the email addresses. So somebody will become will be a red, which is bad. Somebody will be an amber. They sometimes open my emails. Then there's green. They're the ones that open it all the time.
That's an add-on you've got, though.
Yeah. And it's brilliant. Because every 24 hours, it just updates it. So then I know that. And so now when I send out an email, when I send out an email, the majority of times I will only send it out to people who are green and amber, because that makes whatever people like MSN and Yahoo and people like that are looking at, Google are looking at, it makes my email stats look better, which means I'm not then going into spam. And then every now and again, I'll do it to everybody, including the ones that are bounced. So that way, just in case a bad person might have actually opened up an email, they might then on the odd occasion subscribe to something or sign up for my webinar or whatever. So I think it's important to understand, isn't it, in email marketing, like open rates and then see what's happening in that CRM, and to have those kind of add-ons so that you can then ensure that a lot of your emails don't land up in spam.
Yeah, I think 2 things happen. One is that people, this is generalizing, of course, but people don't always keep an eye on the data. So, if you're going to do email marketing, you want to be looking at the data and seeing what your data is telling you in terms of who's engaging, who's not engaging, what headings you've used that have led to emails being open, and what ones you're using that led to emails not being open, etc. There's so much you can learn from the data. But also the mistake that's often made, which you referred to earlier, Dee, is doing the lead magnet, getting the email addresses in, they get the initial welcome sequence, and then the business owner not continuing to email those people.
No.
So they've invested all that time and energy and sometimes money in getting the leads in, and then they allow them to go cold because they don't continue to contact them. So there's only really a point of having a lead magnet and bringing leads in if you are going to continue emailing the people after you've got the leads, because they go cold quickly. So you can't get those on your list and then wait 6 months and then start emailing them and expect them to engage with you because they've forgotten about you by then. So it's really important to do it regularly.
And that's a massive problem. I think we always chase new business and new leads, but we don't do enough with the people that we've already got.
It's so true. Yeah. Yeah, so true. We forget about, I've just written a post about this actually, where people focus on bringing in more and more new leads because they think it's easier than concentrating on the ones they've got. So they're not trying to convert the ones they've got, they're just bringing in new ones. So if the new ones don't convert immediately, they forget about all the other ones they've got. But actually the money really is in those ones that are sitting there waiting to be nurtured, waiting to get to know, like, and trust you more, waiting to find out more about what you do. You're leaving a lot more on the table if you don't nurture them.
Yeah, absolutely. The fortune is in the follow-up.
It is.
Right? The fortune's in the follow-up. And like you'll find that people like loads of people talk about this. The most prominent person that talks about this is Matt from Einstein, Immortal, where he says that everyone's got a trust timer, right? They have to have exposure to you, whether it's online content, email content, your short form, long form content, does not matter. They need to be exposed to you for a certain amount of time before they know, like, and trust you enough to jump into bed with you and have a business relationship with you. So, emails certainly have got a lot of stick over the last couple of years. Where people nobody opens emails, spam filters and promotion filters, taking it out of your inbox. But if you work hard at creating good email headlines and giving out good content, then your audience will automatically move you into their inboxes. And once they move you into their inboxes, your domain authority goes up, which means your deliverability goes up. And if you're doing the red, amber, green traffic light system with them as well, then you're going to be hitting more inboxes than not, and that's really important. But the fortune is definitely in the follow-up. You've already paid for a customer. Why go and pay for another customer again? They've stuck their hand up and they've qualified themselves and said, we're interested in what you do because we identify through a lead magnet. You would potentially have called out their name as how they identify themselves and a problem that they associate with themselves and their business. So they've already said, I am this person and I have this problem. So it's not a question of if they're going to buy from you, it's a question of when they're going to buy from you. And that's what a lot of people forget. And, going back to one of our previous episodes where we spoke about trialing stuff, but also, like just for example, ADHD business owners and ADHD customers, like they'll give up because their focus shifts, right? So you've almost got to treat everybody as if they've got ADHD and give them those bite-sized, synopsis-sized content pieces in emails, but remind them why you're there. Like, that's what I feel is really important.
Yeah. So, Sarah, what makes, one of the questions that I reckon would come up from this episode is, what makes a good email? Like, you mentioned headline, for example. So, yeah, definitely that. But just in terms of the structure of an email, what makes a good, engaging email that's likely to get people opening it, not unsubscribing, and eventually taking action?
Yeah, great question. So obviously the headline is super important. So you write the headline so that somebody then opens up the email. So if you think about when you're writing copy, you want to write a sentence so that they want to read the next sentence. So that's like a copywriting thing, really. I would say in terms of like the structure of an email, you want to keep your sentences short and sweet. You don't want long paragraphs of text because people just won't read it. So like 2 or 3 lines at a time makes it super easy for people to read. And the key thing is that it's relevant to your target market and the problems they've got and the solutions they're looking for. But you can talk about anything. Like you can tell them about podcasts you're doing. You can tell them about stuff you're doing socially. You can tell them about business stuff. I would say you don't want it all to be value and no offers, and you don't want it to be all offers and no value. So it's got to be a good mix. So it's got to be like providing content, but then you can offer them something and tell them like about your products and services, because you're missing a trick if you don't, basically. But if you just only did offers, then chances are people are going to start to get a bit tired of that. So it is a bit of a balancing act. But Gary Vee talks about jab, jab, hook, which is like, a couple of emails which are about content and then one that's offering an offer. So that's a good kind of structure to go with. And I'm sure Vish in a minute can talk about like Matt Wilson's structure for emails and what he recommends. But it's just basically making it relevant. I mean, I always think you want to try and be the person who shows up in someone's inbox and they are waiting for that email from you. They're looking forward to receiving it and they will read it. So there's maybe like a handful of people that I follow and I read nearly all their emails because I know it's relevant to me and I know I'm going to learn something from it. Whereas there's loads of other emails I get that I don't really read because they're not immediately useful to me. I might not unsubscribe because I might want to, still hear from them later down the line. But you want to be one of those people that's showing up and then people go, yes, I really want to read what she's got to say today because I know it's going to really help me. Yeah. Vish, what would you add to that?
I mean, you've pretty much summed it up, really. You don't want large blocks of text. Nobody likes that stuff. You don't need to overly complicate it with images. And, certainly unless you're taking them to a piece of content, don't take them off email. Keep them in the email as much as possible because they're there, they've opened it, they're reading it, you've got their attention now, right? Just keep them chaining through it. Because I find what a lot of people do is they do the attention for the headline really well and their opening gambit's really good, but then they take them off email as quickly as possible and they go to a landing page or like a blog post that just generally doesn't do that much for the client and they'll just lose them. And I'm like, why did you do that? You got an open, you got a click, but you actually lost their attention. And what you're doing is actually inadvertently you're conditioning your client to not read your emails because that last one was a piece of shit. Like I didn't get any value from that blog post. So keep it on email as much as possible is what I would say. Unless it's obviously video and you want to chuck them out to a video, but then do it intelligently. Another one is don't sell all the freaking time, man. Emails that sell all the time are so boring, right? Like it's like bugger off. Those are ones I unsubscribe from really quickly, by the way. Just give you an example. Like Matt's obviously one of the ones that I follow. I, work very closely with him, but I also follow what he does because he's ahead of the game most of the time. And so having that proximity to him also means signing up to his emails, right? So you can kind of funnel hack his emails. But he does the same thing. Like he won't go out for a sell on every email. In fact, quite the opposite. He goes out with value, 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 and then he'll hit you with I've given you value. And he's really unapologetic about, I've given you loads of value. Now I want you to buy something. I'm actually coming to you with a sales message, and this is what my sales message is. I think that's really great because that transparency just, I think, works well with people like me, and I'd like to attract people like me. Therefore, I'd use something like that. I think it works quite well. But you need to base it around what your customers are like. And only you know that after doing the research you're going to be doing. So, yeah, there's so many, and there's so many different versions of this out there. But you really have to find the right version for you. That's one of my key takeaway point from this is find what works for you, because not everything everybody says will work for you. And it will be so individual to your niche, and you'll only know it once you trial it.
Yeah. So I think just in wrapping this kind of episode out, I think some of the key things that I've taken away is from both you and Sarah is first of all making sure that you do have a nurture sequence of some sort and have a lead magnet to collect the emails anyway, making sure that lead magnet sits with their desire, their pains, etc. And then with emails, don't just email them once a week. Email them enough with great value plus offer services, reminding them what you do, because there'll always be people there who suddenly need that reminding. But don't just sell all the time on those emails.
Absolutely.
So I think so look, that's been another amazing episode. So look, if you are interested in finding out a little bit more about how you can improve your email marketing, or indeed need help with your email marketing, then give Sarah Cox a follow because she is the email marketing automation queen.
She is indeed.
And she can definitely she is indeed, and she can help you. She provides a done for you as well as a done with you service, so you can learn all about that. And obviously give the podcast, the Ultimate Marketing Podcast, a follow and a subscribe. Head over to our YouTube channel, head over to our link tree and download it on Apple, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on all the major platforms. All the major platforms. And of course, 100%. Give it a follow and a subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you follow it, the better it performs in the algorithm. So like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell their friends, to tell their friends, your next door neighbors, your auntie, cat, dog, twice removed. Doesn't matter. Let them all know. This has been an absolutely amazing episode. We've had quite a good few episodes, some guests as well, and loads more guests to come. So if you don't like, share, subscribe, you're never going to find out who they are, and you're going to miss the trick when it comes down to all things ultimate, all things marketing, and all things business.
Yeah, so definitely give Sarah, we just said give Sarah a little follow if you're wanting help with your email marketing. So definitely give you a contact. You can get all of her links in the show notes. If you want help with your funnels, Vish is the man. He will help you create a funnel that is perfect for people landing on it and downloading your lead magnet. And of course, if you want help with getting more visible online with your LinkedIn, both done for you and done with you. And if you'd like to also fill your webinars using LinkedIn events, then give me a call. In the meantime, until next time, it's a bye from all of us here at the Ultimate Marketing Podcast. See you soon. Bye.